Hey, I'm working on the Flex on Rails course, and I'm about to show how to use caching, but I figured I might as well show you how I can take some ERB and convert it into a Flex component, um, since I'm going to need this component to shoot the video for the next course. So what the heck, let's do a quick video and show how that thing works. All right, so the goal is to move this chunk of ERB into a Flex component. So we're going to say Rails G Flex component. We'll call it stats. All right, I'm going to take this, copy it, put it over here. Stats.rb. Okay, and we want to get this working. All right, so I'm kind of putting this here for reference. Actually, you know what I like to do? Oops. And it's autocomplete. I almost don't like it. Anyway, all right, so we have view template, and what I'm going to do for now is go back into here, and we're just going to render stats. So we'll see render components stats.new. We should see that thing. Yeah, here we go. Find me in component stats. All right, that renders. Next thing we need to do is set up the classes for these things. So we're going to say stats bg primary. I'm just going to copy this thing, even though that's not really a great composition. Yield, delete this stuff. Okay, so we have the stuff around taken care of. And then we have this link that we need to include. There's a couple ways we can do this. It has multiple blocks. I'm actually going to extract this out into a component just called stat, because we want to say like stat.title and stat.value. Say class stat, and that's going to inherit from components base. Okay. And that is taking this stuff here. So we have the stat title. And we actually don't need or want all this. Okay, and the stat is actually a link, so we're going to do. Kind of wish Flex had a an element abstraction. We'll get into that in a minute. Okay, you know what? I'm actually not going to do that. I'll show you why in a second. Okay, so we have a stat. We have a stat title. So for that, I'm going to do like def title. Oh man, I have a Moonlander keyboard here. Okay, so whenever we call title, we want to have stat title. And we're just going to render the block. So I'll say div class. You know what? We don't need to name these things. Okay, and then we have value, same idea, stat value. And there's no extra classes on that. Okay, cool. So this should render. Get a stat title, stat value, all that fun stuff. Now what I want to do here is have a method where we can do this stat.new. We're just going to pass actually the whole thing here. You know what? That's not going to work. We have to pass the block. Because render wants the block. And I'll show you why in a minute. Actually, we'll switch to how we're going to call this thing so that we can see what it's going to look like. Okay, so we have stats. What am I doing? Let's end. All right, let's see if this renders. Render stat. Oh, I gotta throw a parentheses around that. Do I? What? What am I doing? Stat.new render. Oh, gotta pass that block through there. Okay, that works. And where were we? Okay, here's where we are. So we're gonna do stats.stat do. I'm just gonna use it because I don't want to have all this crazy stuff here. Or you know what? Maybe we call it add. Let's try that. So we actually don't need all these brackets, I don't think. In fact, we might not even need this block, depending on if we need to get any ERB in there. This is what's annoying about AI and Phlex, or LLMs and Phlex. I don't expect this to work. Yeah, we don't have add. All right, so we have stats, and we're adding a stat to this thing. So, you know, we can alias. There we go. Cool. All right, so to kind of break this down, we have a component. It's called component stats. We create an instance of it. And then inside of that block, we actually have the stats component. So we have an instance of this class. Obviously, it's wrapping it with this div and whatever the yield is in here. We have a method called stat, and that is creating a new instance of a stat. And then we're calling the title and value on that thing. So you can see we're saying, hey, title, it's going to be items, value is going to be whatever this count is. And we're wrapping those values, which is a block right here in this div. Same for the value. Sorry, the title and the value. You know, we could still have this and it would work. But sometimes it's nice to alias things because if you have a block like this, you know, you might want the verb and then you pass the noun in there. If you're using Ruby 4, you should be able to do something like this. It. And that's a nice shortcut, so you don't have to do the block. But then in that case, you might just go with stat, right? So stats.stat. And then it is referring to the stat. So that's just a quick overview of how you can take ERB, extract it out into a Phlex component, and you know, drop that into your ERB. And this is one example. I'm doing this quite a bit in the Phlex on Rails course at beautifulruby.com. I'm just doing this because I actually am working on a caching exercise, and I want to cache these values. So I'm going to show how Phlex can do that at the view level, just as an example. But I figured I might as well just show you how you can take ERB and integrate it with Phlex, and it cleans things up pretty well. I think it's very readable. Much more readable than if that was all the Phlex and all the blocks and all that crazy stuff.